We have gone through what are the various versions of Windows Server OS editions, specifically for 16, 19, and 2022, limitations of each edition. And we saw the installation of Windows Server 2019 with a graphical interface, that is a desktop experience edition. Now we are going to see today Server Core Edition installation. But prior to that, we are going to configure post installation task on our server OS. That means giving the computer name, changing the IP address or assigning an IP address to the machine, etc. So yesterday we had logged in to our server OS after assigning the password for the first time. So we logged into the server OS for the first time. Then we install the VMware tools. Now let's log in. Our VMware tools are already installed. So we can see our UI has changed, performance has improved. So let's log in with the password admin at the rate 123. So we can see again, server manager is appearing. Now the performance has improved to some extent. Now at present, I'll close this admin center pop-up. And here using the server manager, we can manage our whole server. So we have manage tab where we can add roles and features, we can remove roles and features, we can add another servers, we can create a server group of similar configuration, we can manage server manager properties, right? So we can specify the server manager when it should refresh. If we do not want that it should start automatically, we can click on this so it will not start automatically. We need to explicitly go to start menu and start the server manager from here. So I'll leave it. We need it always. We have tools. So from these tools, you will get different snap-ins or consoles where you can manage your servers. You can have the view of your server manager change, zoom in, zoom out, hide welcome tile, or what is the percentage of the zoom you want. And we have the help button. Apart from that, on the left hand side, we have dashboard. So our dashboard includes add other servers to manage, create a server group, connect the server to the cloud services, add roles and features. So these are almost what we have here. Then we have all servers. If you have added multiple servers, it will appear here. By default, file and storage services are installed. So we'll not talk on this because we are not going in detail to the server management. And we have local server. Local server means this machine. So when we see the local server here, so what I'll do first, I'll change the display settings of the server. So I'm going to make it maybe 85%. So it has a better view. So here we can see we have our computer name. This is the default computer name given here. We have workgroup type. The workgroup name is workgroup itself. We have Windows firewall on or off. Remote management is enabled. Remote desktop is disabled. NIC team is disabled. Ethernet configuration is given as dynamic. Operating system version, we have installed Windows Server 2019 Standard Edition. Hardware information, so we are using the underlying hardware. That is, my virtual machine is on a VMware hardware. So I'm using the virtualization software. So that's why it is showing VMware. We have a total disk space of 60 GB approx, 4 GB RAM, processors. So you can see my two core processors it is showing, two cores are there. Product ID, it is not activated because it is a trial edition. Time zone, we selected Indian time zone. IE second settings are on. Feedback and diagnostic settings we can configure. Antivirus is configured. Real-time protection is on. Last installed updates are never. Windows update are configured to automatically update the machine. And last updates were checked never before because we don't have internet connection. Else we had internet connection. At present, I don't have internet connection. Now what we are going to do is I'm going to change the computer name of the machine. Computer name of the machine, and as well as I'm going to configure the IP address, which is set to automatic. I'll configure as manual. So we will first click on this computer name. I can click here. So it will open system properties, or I can go to the run menu of the machine. I can type sysdm.cpl and press enter. So it is opening our computer name window. Now, this is computer description. You can't change the computer name from here. Don't give the computer name here. We need to click on the change button to rename the computer or change its domain or workgroup. Click on the change button. So we'll be clicking on the change button. We'll click on change. Now I'm going to give the machine name as server 01. I have given the computer name. I'll click OK. Now here, whatever name I have given, this is my computer name. And this is my virtual machine name. Both are different. This is my virtual machine name for VMware Workstation. It is not my computer name. My computer name is this. Both are different, right? Initially, my computer name was this. Here it is given, right? So I'll say, OK, I want to restart the machine and I'll close it. So it is asking to restart. So previous my computer name was this, and now it will be renamed after the restart as server 01. So let's restart the machine. So our machine has started. We'll select Control Alt Delete to log in. We'll input the password. So the blue strip on top was populating the server manager. Now it is populated. Again, I'll change once the display settings. Now we'll go back to the local server and we can see our server name or computer name has changed. Now here we have Ethernet information. I can click here. If I click here, so it is opening network properties, or else I can go to the run menu and I can type ncpa.cpl, ncpa.cpl. So it is opening the same network properties. We'll right click properties. We'll go to the IPv4 protocol. We'll select it. We'll click on properties. Now it is set to obtain IP address automatically. It is going to obtain the IP address from our DHCP server. So at present, we don't have any DHCP server. So what we are going to do, we are going to say use the following IP address. I'm going to assign the IP address manually. So I'm going to assign an IP address as 10.0.0.100 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. This is the IP address I have assigned. Now we will, after the server core installation, we'll talk about network fundamentals. So you'll get a glimpse of what is private IP address and public IP address. So here IP address which I have configured is a private IP address. We'll click OK. And I'm going to select IPv6. I'm not going to use IPv6. So I'll just uncheck this box. I'll uncheck it and I'll click close. And I'll click close. So here still nothing has changed. So my IPv4 is assigned by DHCP and IPv6 is also enabled. But I have given IPv4 address as manually 10.100 and IPv6 I disabled it. I'll just refresh from here. You can see refresh button is there. I'll refresh it. And you can see now my IPv6 is disabled and I am having my IP address as 10.100. So this is how you can configure post installation task. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to create a new virtual machine. And on top of that virtual machine, we are going to install server core operating system. We are going to install server core. So I'll go to file, new virtual machine, or I can go to the home button, this button. You can see we have tab of server 01 and home. I can go to the home button and create a new virtual machine. It is the same thing. We'll go to next. So here I'll give the my ISO image again of Windows Server 19. It has detected 2019. We'll move next. I'll skip this step. We'll do this while the installation options. Next, here I'm going to give the machine name as S core 01 server core 01 machine I'm giving, and it is going to reside here. We'll click next. Again, I'm going to give 60 GB hard drive, the default options. Next, and I'm going to click finish. So it has taken memory 2 GB, processors 2 core, 60 GB hard drive. If I go to virtual machine settings, so I'll leave the RAM as 2 GB only because it is a server core. It doesn't have graphics. So 2 GB would suffice. I'll remove the floppy drive, and on the network adapter tab, I'll select host only. I'll select host only and I'll click OK. And I'll click on the power on the virtual machine. So once I click, I'll click the cursor inside, and within 3 seconds or within that 5 dots running, I need to press enter. So I'll click here, power on, I'll click inside and I'll press here 5 dots are there. And on the fourth dot, I pressed enter. So I'll select language to install as English United States. Time and currency format, I'll select English India. And we'll move next and we'll click install now. So here I'll go with the first option, the default option, that is standard edition. And it is an evaluation edition and it is a server core by default. We'll move next. We'll accept the license terms. We'll move next. We'll select custom install. We'll select new. We'll select the whole 60 GB partition, apply and OK. So it has created 4 partitions and we need to install the OS in the primary partition. We'll move next. So let the installation get complete. It will take 2 to 3 minutes. right? So that's my installation is complete, and this is my desktop. It is asking to change the password, right? So it is saying the user's password must be changed before signing in, right? So I'll click inside and I'll press enter on the OK button. It is asking new password. I'll assign the password admin at the rate 123. I'll push the tab button. Again, I'll confirm the password and press enter. So it has changed the password. You can see the username is administrator and it's saying your password has been changed. Okay. So we'll press OK. So now this is my desktop. Nothing else we will have here in the server code. So let me change the size of the prompt. So this is my desktop. Here I need to manage everything from command prompt only. So in order to manage the basic things of your machine, as we have their server manager, basic things, not the managing your server. Here you will manage your server using commands only, right? So you can use PowerShell or you can use command prompt. So at present I'm on command prompt. If I want to go to PowerShell, I'll type PowerShell. So I'll be switched to PowerShell. So you can see now here I'm having PS. So that is my PowerShell prompt. If I want to come to back to command prompt, I can simply type exit. So I'm back on command prompt. Apart from that, for managing the basic stuff in order to change the computer name, assign the IP address, etc., we can make use of sconfig utility. Sconfig utility is a utility to manage your machine. So if I press sconfig and enter, if I type sconfig and enter, you can see here we can manage our domain workgroup machine model. We can give the computer name. We can add local administrator. We can configure remote management. We can configure update settings. We can download and install updates. We can configure remote desktop. We can configure network settings. We can configure date and time. We can configure telemetry settings, Windows activation. We can log off the user. We can restart the server. We can shut down the server, or we can exit to the command line. So if I press 15, I'll and enter, I'll back to the command line. Now this utility will also work on our graphic machine. It is going to work on our graphic machine also. So if we go to our graphic machine, so this is my graphic machine. If we open command prompt, I'll change the font size. And if I type sconfig here, you can see the same utility. It is going to work here also. The same utility it is going to work here also. You can explore this utility. So I'll not deep dive in. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the Active Directory role on this machine. So first of all, I'll shut down my server core machine. I don't need the server core machine. I'll just press 14 and enter. Sorry, I'm on. So I'll just shut down slash p, shut down space slash p. So it is planned shutdown and I'll press enter. So it is shutting down my machine. So my machine has powered off. Now what I'm going to do on the server core machine, I'm going to install Active Directory services. I'm going to install Active Directory services. So how can I install Active Directory services? Now Active Directory has a prerequisite of a DNS. It is a prerequisite of DNS. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to install Active Directory as well as DNS. So we'll see how to install it. So I'll go to dashboard. I'll go to add roles and features. We'll move next. We'll say role based or feature based installation next. We'll select our server next. Now here, the second option is Active Directory domain services. So I'm going to check this box for installation. So once I check this box, it is asking add features that are required for Active Directory domain services. So it is by default giving pop-up that these features are required and it should include management tools. I'll say add features. So I'll select this. And I need to select the DNS server also. So I'll select DNS server checkbox. I'll say add required features. Next, 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 and install. So let it get installed. So my Active Directory services installation is completed. Installation is completed. Configuration is not completed. So it is giving a prompt here, promote this server to a domain controller. Promote this server to a domain controller. Right, so I'll click here, but accidentally we are much smart. We clicked on close. Right, so what I'll do, I'm smart. Installation completed. I'll click close. So here we have a warning message under the flag icon, notifications icon. We'll click here, and here it is showing the same link, promote this server to a domain controller. I'll click on this link. We'll say add a new forest. I'll explain the theory portion of what is a forest and what is the Active Directory structure. We'll not deep dive in. I'm going to give a forest name. So forest name I'll give as sp.com. sp.com. Now, important thing, if your internet is connected, then you should not give .com because it will go to internet to validate. So you should give .local. You can give rajesh.local, teja.local, etc. Right? I'll give sp.com because I don't have internet connection on this machine. If I have internet, it will go to internet to validate that I own this domain or not. So I'll move next. So it is validating in the network that this domain exists or not. If it exists, it will not allow me to take this domain. So here it is asking select functional level of the new forest and root domain. So I'll leave forest functional level as Windows Server 2016, the highest level, and domain functional level also Server 2016. Here you can see the two options. First two options are grayed out. They are compulsory checked. So first is the DNS server. We have already installed the DNS server. It is not configured. So it is going to configure, and it is going to configure this server as a GC server or global catalog server. Now it is asking provide the directory services restore mode password. So if I have deleted any objects or if I want to restore a backup of this server, specifically of Active Directory. So at that time, I need to reboot this server in directory services restore mode. And while logging, I need to log in with this password, not with my regular password. So I am going to assign here the same password admin at the rate one at the rate 123. We are not going to cover recovery and backup. So we not focus on this. I'm just going to assign the password admin at the rate 123. We'll move next. It is asking a delegation for the DNS server cannot be created because the authoritative parent zone cannot be found. We'll say, OK, it is just a warning because DNS server is not configured for this domain. So it is going to configure it. We'll say, OK. Next. So it is showing me the NetBIOS domain name, that is SP, that is without my domain extension, that is without .com, without .local, etc. We'll move next. Now it is going to show me the path where my Active Directory will get installed. So you can see this is my database folder. My database will be installed under C Windows NTDS. So my database file will be ntds dot dit. ntds.dit. So ntds.dit stands for New Technology Directory Services. New Technology Directory Services. Directory Information Tree. DIT. Directory Information Tree. My logs will be also stored in the same path, C Windows NTDS. And one folder will be created, sysvol folder, that will be C Windows sysvol. And this folder contains your group policy objects, which are need to be published on the network on all your domain machines. So we'll leave the path default only. In production, you should not give your OS drive, that is C drive, where the OS is installed. If OS is installed in D drive, then you should change the path. So let's say if my OS, so my precisely the default path, it will be of OS drive. So I should give another path. At present, I don't have any another drive. So and it is my demo environment, demonstration environment. So I'll leave the C drive path only, OS path only. We'll move next. So it is showing what options you have selected. You can review it from here. We'll move next. So it is going to perform a prerequisite check. Let it perform the prerequisite check. So it has performed all prerequisite check, and we can see there is a green message in the top, green tick mark. All prerequisite checks passed successfully. Click install to begin. But here we have some warning message also. So last is all checks passed successfully, prerequisite checks completed successfully, and two warning messages. So one is for NT 4.0 server. If you have in your network NT 4.0 server, then you need to go and study this link, that server 2009 domain controller have a default security setting named allow cryptographic algorithm compatible with your Windows NT server. We don't have Windows NT server, so we don't need to worry. And second warning, a delegation for the DNS server cannot be created. So that's okay, because we are going to install DNS server with this steps only. So it is going to configure DNS. So we'll just click on the install button. So let the installation get completed. So this server will get promoted as a domain controller. So what is a domain controller? I'll explain with the network fundamentals part. Theory portion I'll cover together. Correct. So it is starting the machine. It is going to automatically restart the machine. I'm not going to do anything. So it is saying the computer is being restarted because Active Directory domain services was installed or removed. So let it restart the machine. Okay, so my installation is completed. Now we'll see what is the difference in the login screen. So if I press Control Alt Delete, you can see here now it is showing my NetBIOS name slash administrator. It is showing my NetBIOS name slash administrator, SP slash administrator. This is my basically a domain name which we gave sp.com. So now this my machine has become a domain controller. So we'll talk what is a domain controller when we'll talk about Active Directory Services theory. At present, we have just performed the installation. So I'll log into my domain controller. The blue strip running above is refreshing or is populating the services in the service server manager. So we'll wait for it. Now my all services are populated. I'll change the resolution of the screen. Now we can see here we have two things added here, Active Directory Domain Services and DNS. Two things have added here. So these rows we have added. Apart from that, if we go to the tools menu, we will have 7 new screens. So first is DNS. As we install DNS. Apart from that, we have these 5: Active Directory Administrative Center, Active Directory Domain Centers, Active Directory Module for Windows PowerShell, Active Directory Sites and Services, Active Directory Users and Computers, and one Group Policy Management. So the above 5 and Group Policy are part of your Active Directory role, and DNS is part of your DNS role. So these 7 consoles have been added after the roles which we installed, 2 roles which we installed, Active Directory and DNS. Apart from that, if we go to the local server, now here you can see here instead of workgroup, it is showing domain and it is showing our domain as sp.com. It is showing our domain as sp.com. I hope the practicals are clear till now. Any doubts?
Yes, sir, it's clear. For
Yes,
me, it's clear.
Krishna?
It's clear, sir.
Okay,
No
so
doubts
now
from
what
my
we'll
side.
do, we'll go through some theory portion
Hmm.
to understand network fundamentals. Right, so I'll close this. So first we talk about communication types. So we have basically 4 types of communication types. Among these 3 are relevant for IPv4, and these 3 are relevant for IPv6. This we don't have in IPv4 and this we don't have in IPv6. So now what are these communication types? So first is unicast, that is one-on-one communication, multicast one-to-many communication, broadcast one-to-all communication, and anycast is an upgraded version of broadcast, as the IPv6 version is also an upgraded of IPv4 version. So that is anycast one to the closest. One to the closest. Now when we talk about network, so what is a network? So in perspective to a end user who is in home or who is in office, who is in home, the perspective of network is, or perspective of networking, perspectives of network is that a user is sitting on home, he is having connectivity to internet, the internet is coming to the router, and it is coming to the computer, or it is coming to through DSL modem to the wireless router, and they are accessing the wireless devices. So that is a normal communication. It is a representation of internet for a normal end user. So if the user is sitting in office or at home, this is the normal understanding of a user. But actually, that is not the case. Actually, that is not the case. So in the enterprise network, you have enterprise network, which is known as LAN. You will have switches connected to the enterprise network and wireless devices connected to the network. So these network devices are known as access points. To the access points, your wireless devices will be connected, and to the switch, your cabled devices will be connected. So if we see a normal representation of a network, so a network is generally a interconnection of devices. So for example, here we have internet is coming to the router. So here we are talking about corporate network, not the home network. Now here this router is different. The router we have in home is known as a SOHO router, which stands for small office, home office. Small office, home office. Now the home router has functionality, four functionalities. So it will act as a router also. It will act as a basic firewall also. It will act as a basic switch also, and it will act as a basic access point also. But that is not the case in the corporate or in the enterprise network or in the business. Right? In business or in enterprise environment, in corporate environment, router is different, firewall is different, switch is different, access point is different. All four devices are different. But in the home router, we have clubbed all features are included in the single router, right? So here we can see we have router, then we have firewall. So firewall is connected to switch where you have your servers. Then you have another switch where you have your cable network. Then another switch, that switch is connected to access point, and you have your wireless devices. So this is how generally a corporate network is designed. Now this is network. Then what is networking? So network is a interconnection of devices. But when a communication occurs between this network devices, right? Networking is the communication between the interconnected devices. So at present, this is only a network, but when a communication happens, data is being sent from this machine to this laptop. So that is communication happening. So that means networking is happening. So this is my networking. Network is just a connection of devices. Network is just a connection of devices. Clear till now? Any doubts?
No
It's
doubt,
clear,
sir.
sir.
It's clear.
Okay, so I'll keep a pause here. Why pause? Because another topic which I want to start, it requires at least 20-25 minutes, because I'll be talking about IP, and then after IP, I'll be talking about TCP, UDP, which is interconnected, and LAN, WAN, MAN. So that we'll talk
Okay.
tomorrow. Okay,
Okay.
so I'll open the window for doubts. Tomorrow we'll be having mostly theory sessions. Maybe if we have time, we'll see some practicals under